Mark Smith and his team set out to uncover a legend, but what they stumbled upon turned out to be far more significant than they ever imagined. At first, Mark could hardly believe his eyes when he saw it. The shock was almost too much to handle. As the reality of their discovery set in, the weight of it nearly took his breath away. It wasn't just any find, it was something that would go down in history as the discovery of a lifetime, and it was all thanks to his dedicated team. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Lake Vigoro was steeped in myths, its waters the source of countless tall tales. Fishermen often spoke of strange creatures lurking beneath its surface, adding to the lake's mystery. Each story seemed more fantastical than the last, sparking curiosity in anyone who dared to listen. Mark was one of those captivated by the lake's legends. A lover of hunting myths and uncovering truths, he found himself drawn to the tales surrounding Lake Vigoro. The question lingered in his mind. Could he be the one to unravel the mystery and find what he had been searching for? Mark had been passionate about diving since his high school years, but it wasn't until his 40s that he became captivated by the legends surrounding various lakes. The stories piqued his curiosity, drawing him deeper into a world of mystery. Determined to uncover the truth behind these tales, Mark began to travel the globe. Each dive brought him closer to the legends, and soon he found himself unable to resist the allure of the unknown, making it an obsession he couldn't easily walk away from. Mark had heard countless tales about Lake Vigoro over the years, but one story stood out above the rest. Legends spoke of a strange sight that appeared on clear days, a sharp, spear-like object protruding from the water's surface. Curiosity piqued, Mark became determined to uncover the truth behind this mysterious phenomenon. He couldn't shake the urge to discover what lay beneath the surface, but little did he know, the answers he sought would lead him to an unexpected revelation. The journey began 2 years before the incident, sparked by the growing prominence of the spear's legend. Mark saw an opportunity in this newfound attention and decided to delve deeper into its mysteries. As he explored the legends, he uncovered details that captivated him far more than he expected. The more he learned, the stronger his fascination grew, leaving him wondering what it was about the spear that had such a powerful hold over him. Mark had dedicated countless hours researching the subject, but he found no concrete evidence to back up the rumors. Despite the lack of proof, he couldn't shake his curiosity. While most researchers would have dismissed the story and moved on, Mark felt drawn to it. The more he dug, the more he wanted to uncover whether there was any truth to the fisherman's tale. Over the course of 2 years, Mark gradually assembled his team, each member sharing his passion and enthusiasm for the venture. As soon as they heard the tales and legends surrounding the journey, they were all in, eager to embark on the expedition together. With his team in place, Mark's next task was to raise the funds necessary to acquire the gear and equipment for the trip. However, none of them could have anticipated the challenges and risks that lay ahead on this ambitious adventure. For the past 70 years, a single legend surrounding the lake has captivated people's imaginations. It all began in the mid-1950s when the first account of the mysterious spear surfaced, sparking widespread curiosity. Since then, countless individuals have visited the lake, eager for a glimpse of the elusive artifact. Despite numerous expeditions over the decades, none have been successful in uncovering any evidence of the spear's existence. The legend persists, continuing to fuel the hopes and dreams of those who venture to the lake, yet its mystery remains unsolved. Mark began his in-person research by speaking with the locals, especially the fishermen. Their stories were enough to leave him feeling utterly bewildered. Yet it wasn't the spear that would challenge Mark's understanding of everything. Instead, it was something far darker and more perplexing that would truly unsettle the diver. Mark had listened to countless tales, each one varying wildly from the next. One fisherman recalled a stormy evening with the sun beginning to set when he first laid eyes on the mysterious object. His story painted a picture of an eerie moment marked by the darkening sky and rising tension. In contrast, another fisherman swore the sighting took place at dawn under a calm, clear sky. He described the water as still, barely a ripple, when the enormous shape emerged from the lake, leaving him in awe. Each account seemed to hold a different version of the same strange occurrence. But to Mark, these were all crucial pieces of the puzzle he was trying to solve. Every story and every inaccuracy was a key now. He just had to make them fit. That was easier said than done, though. In order to put the pieces together, Mark would need to head out to the lake and see the object for himself. Would he blow the lid off this case? As the days grew nearer, the crew started becoming more nervous. This would be the biggest expedition they had ever been a part of, and they wanted it to be a success. But there was something else that might have been playing on their nerves. The legend of the giant serpent might have just been a story, but it still plagued them. The day had finally come. It was 4 a.m. on a Monday morning, and the crew had just started boarding the boat. Everyone was quiet, and the air around them was filled with tension. None of them expected to find anything on the first day they set out, but there was just something about that morning that had them feeling gloomy. Was it their instincts? As soon as the sun started rising, the crew began looking for the object that had intrigued the entire town. The sky was clear, and the water was calm, but there was no sign of the spear that apparently stuck out above the water. In fact, there was no sign of anything sticking out of the water at all. At around midday, the divers got into the water with the hope of seeing something while down there. But before long, the sun was starting to set, and the time had come for them to leave. The crew was a little disappointed. They had hoped to see something that would point them in the right direction, but they ended up being called in too soon. The divers stayed as long as they could, but when the final call came in from the boat, they knew they no longer had a choice. They had to return to the surface. The divers had found nothing during their first dive. But the dive wasn't over yet. There was still one person who had to get back onto the boat. As Mark was about to get out of the water, something brushed up against him. The sky was dark, and the water was murky, so he couldn't really see what it was. He was about to brush it off when something wrapped around his leg and tugged at him. The pull was strong, and it nearly dragged him under. What caused it? Mark's heart was beating in his throat as he held on for dear life. The creature tugged at him a couple of times before letting go, and he had never felt so relieved in his life, but that wouldn't be the last time he wondered what lurked in those dark depths. It was something that would stick with him for quite some time following the incident. For a whole week, Mark avoided the water at all costs. He barely slept at night as his mind pondered the incident he had experienced. He had never believed in mythological creatures and legends revolving around animals before, but he had no other way of explaining what he felt. If it wasn't something like the Loch Ness Monster, then what was it? For the first time in his life, Mark was truly afraid of the water that he loved more than anything else. It took some serious convincing to get him to go back to the lake, but he wasn't the type who would give up so easily, and that was what ultimately led him to uncover the truth. The very next day, Mark was back in the water, and that was when things started taking a drastic turn. The entire team had gone in, and it didn't take long for them to express their fears. Before he could fully understand what was happening, Mark's radio started going wild. Every single person on his team had something to say. Reports were coming in about a creature stalking the divers. At first, it was just one person, and Mark thought they were just making things up. But within a matter of minutes, everyone was talking about the same thing, and they were absolutely terrified. Not a single member of the team wanted to remain in the water. Nobody knew what it was that they were dealing with. But they did know that it had tentacles and that it was either brushing up against them or trying to drag them further into the dark depths of the lake. This unidentified creature was targeting them one by one, and that had them seriously wound up. As Mark floated there and listened to his team talking, the memories of his last dive came flooding back into his mind. He remembered the tentacle wrapping around his leg and the force the creature used when it tried to drag him down. He remembered his fear and his thoughts, and he knew exactly how his team felt. In that instant, Mark felt an overwhelming urge to get out of the water. But something was keeping him from doing so. It wasn't the mysterious creature or its tentacles, though. It was his curiosity. He wanted to know what it was, and he knew that he could only find out if he stayed in the water. Mark watched the water move as his team swam to safety, and before long, he was the only one who was still in the water. His team called for him to come out and join them on the boat, but he couldn't. He needed to stay and see if he could find anything because he knew there would be no convincing them to get back into the water. Mark had always been a curious man when it came to the mysteries of the lakes, but this mystery was something he couldn't let go of. He needed to find out what the creature was and how no one had ever noticed it before. Little did he know that his curiosity would lead to the biggest freshwater discovery yet. As Mark bobbed around in the murky water, he saw something. He couldn't make out what it was because he just got a glimpse of it, but he was sure that it was some kind of animal, and if he were lucky, he'd find a way to figure out exactly what kind of animal it was. That night, Mark sat behind his computer and analyze the footage that his body cam captured that day. He hoped he'd get some kind of answer from it, but as he saw the creature swimming past him, he knew that this was beyond his range of expertise. He needed some serious help, and he needed it right away. The second Mark saw what it was, he leaped out of his chair and ran to his phone. He typed in the number for the Canadian Wildlife Offices, and it took all his strength to remain calm as he spoke. "I have footage of it," Mark shouted as they began to question him. But would it be enough for them to act?